Welcome to Financially Legal, the podcast for law firm CFOs. I'm your host, Emery Wager, co-founder of Confido Legal, an embedded payments platform specifically designed for law firms. For the lawyers out there, have you ever thought about launching your own case management system? I've heard many lawyers say they dream of building custom software and even taking it to market for other firms. But that journey is packed with challenges, high costs, and a serious time commitment. But that's exactly what James Betzold did in the early days of cloud technology. Running an immigration firm, he saw a real gap in the tools available to manage his practice. Immigration is a form-heavy area of law that can benefit enormously from automation and technology. In this episode of Financially Legal, we cover James' journey, launching Prim.Law, its evolution from an immigration-specific solution to a platform that serves multiple practice areas, and how Prima is now leveraging AI to supercharge the preparation and submission of immigration documents. Here's my conversation with James Betzold. All right, James, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Good to be here.
In these episodes, one of my favorite things to ask, especially given your background as an attorney, as a law firm owner, tell us a little bit about Prima's origins and really the problem that you set out to solve with Prima. Especially given your experience as an attorney, as a law firm owner.
Yeah, sure. So I graduated law school in 2009. And in 2009, the job market was such that it really wasn't feasible to run off and work in a large firm. Hiring was pretty tight everywhere. So there were a lot of attorneys that actually went out and started their own firm right away. And that's what we did. So, of course, originally we handled all types of cases like family law, divorce, custody cases, things like that. But I had done an internship with an immigration firm. So I learned a lot of immigration law already. And we decided to just open up our own firm. And so once we were about 3 years into it, I really saw a lot of places where it was lacking efficiency as far as production, right? Producing the case that we need to send to immigration. And there were some software options on the market at the time. However, they were very buggy, very steep learning curve. And even if you went through the training, there was no guarantee it was actually going to work as advertised. So, we actually reached out to some friends that we have and said, hey, does anybody know somebody who knows, computer programming? We're thinking about we need some software for our firm. Ideally, if possible, something we could license to other firms as well. So, as usually happens, my wife made a couple suggestions and we followed up. And yeah, it turns out she had a cousin who had a boyfriend down in Colombia who had come from Cuba, escaped Cuba, really.
Wow.
And he knew all about, making software as a service. And so that's how we got our start, is building out our own product for our own firm's use. And I mean, it was originally, we had designed it to be tools to fill the immigration practice that we were running.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, over time, as we use it ourselves and leased it out, licensed it to other customers, we just kept building. And we realized, the real play here is a full-on case management system that anyone can use for almost any type of practice. Things like Clio or Practice Panther were new at the time, and there were no immigration features available. So that's how we really got our start.
Awesome. Well, I have talked to a lot of firms that have ambition of building their own software and at the next level, building software that can be used by other firms. And very, very, very few make that leap. So very impressive.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and we hear it all the time too, right? We'll see people at like immigration conferences and they're like, oh, I want to build my own case management system. And I have to say, well, have you considered the cost? And they're like, well, how much did it cost you? And I tell them, and they're like, yeah, maybe we don't need to do that then. Maybe we'll just do things smaller. Because it's not very often that it makes sense. It's not. It's, especially when you look at the timeline to get to a product where it's going to work smoothly for all the things that you want. Man, I mean, just even traditionally, when we started out, people were saying, yeah, it's going to take you 3 years to get some sort of minimum viable product, probably 10 years to reach some sort of maturity.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was ridiculous, but they were right.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it takes. And commitment. It takes commitment.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a continuous influx of cash to keep everybody paid and to keep the software going. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, super interesting. How long after you started using it for your firm did kind of firm number two come on board?
it was probably a period of like 4 months, because once we got the initial version working, it was already built as a SaaS, as a software as a service.
Mm-hmm.
So once we got all the initial, bugs squashed and functionalities worked out,
Mm-hmm.
I think, we started building November of 2014, and by June of 2016, we launched to the public.
That's that is super impressive, that timeline. So, tell us a little bit about maybe for the law firm listeners or others who don't have a lot of experience in the immigration practice area. Can you talk? I know it's kind of become a more general practice solution, but can you talk a little bit about, especially early on, what were some of the unique things that really spoke to the and helped the immigration practice area?
Yeah. So the first feature we knew that we needed was something to help us autofill the forms. So the practice of immigration law is very administrative and form based. So there's, like 120 published immigration forms from one agency, another 50 from another few from another. And when you submit a visa application, it's usually 4 or 5 forms, and it's going to have duplicate information on the form. So you're going to need to publish the name in a few places, date of birth, social security number, alien number, all of these things. And so the very first tool we built was something to gather all that data and then autofill it onto those forms, just to ensure accuracy and to make sure, we could keep the forms updated as well. And that was one of the challenges that we met was these are the forms today, but in 6 months, they may all be different. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing that happened again this year under the Trump administration is it was like one day to the next, like, all right, boom, these are the forms you have to use now. All the others are expired and there's no grace period.
Oh man.
So the Immigration Lawyers Association had to sue the federal government again and say, hey, that's a violation of the Administrative Procedures Act. You can't just spring this on everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But that also bought us a little more time to update all the
Mm-hmm.
forms in our system.
Yeah.
So that was the first feature and
Mm-hmm.
problem that we really attacked. And then
Yeah.
after that, I mean, essentially what we did is we said, okay, what's taking us the most time? What are the things that we could automate? And so autofilling of the forms is one thing, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
next thing we have is, well, we got to put all of these forms together in one comprehensive package, right? So it's kind of like a PDF merge, except for something like a court case, you actually have to have an index, table of contents, page numbers, footers with Bates numbering on it, and things like that. And we call that package assembly. So that was one of the
Mm-hmm.
next major features that we added, and that ended up saving multiple hours, because
Yeah.
just doing that by hand or trying to assemble it manually on your computer in Adobe or another PDF tool, I mean, it was
Mm-hmm.
just eating hours of time. And then if you had to change something, it's like all that page numbering has to be done again. And we still meet attorneys when we'll do a demo for our software. We'll meet attorneys who are still doing it by hand. They'll like literally write
Wow.
out 350 page numbers on each individual form. And they're like, well, I don't do it. My assistant does it. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's taking your assistant like a long time. And then when they got to add more stuff, it's
Oh man.
a huge waste. Yeah.
Were there any moments that you remember vividly, like when the kind of the early version of the software launched and it was working well, and like all of a sudden some of these things were, happening in an automated way that were, hours and super manual, either for you personally or your team members who were doing this. So.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we loved it. It was great.
Mhm.
And, every once in a while we come into a bug. And since we're actually a firm who uses it all day long, we find it and fix it and keep moving forward. There were a couple other real cool things we built too. One of them is a more recent, probably in the last 2 years we've had this. We call it the case management board. So if you can imagine something like Monday.com or Asana or Jira or a project management tool, right, where you can see a board and you've got little tags that you can add and track statuses and different pieces of data. Well, in a law firm, you need a table with all that data so you can see, especially in immigration practice. It's typically a high volume practice where at any given time, I think right now our firm has like 800 open cases that are pending. And we're talking about, our firm, which is like 10 paralegals and 1 attorney. So we need to be able to stay on top of it and know what cases are moving, what ones have fallen behind for some reason, and to investigate. So we actually built in, our own project management board, which we call a case management board. And that was probably the biggest, one of the biggest features we were recently showing at the American Immigration Lawyers Conference. And we brought one of these extra wide, gaming monitors because this table has a lot of data in it and you want to be able to see it. But yeah, that is because you can use it to generate reports and to filter and to find exactly the types of cases that are happening. It's just a huge time saver. I saw a post just last night on Facebook of a firm that we are aware of, and they were posting how excited they were that they were doing day 5 of their entire firm case review, looking at all their cases from 2021 till now, because immigration is something that's very political, right? So with the new president, there have been a lot of policy and legal changes as well. And so there are times where we need to know, hey, they just ended TPS for El Salvador. We need to find all of our clients who have TPS from El Salvador. We need to generate a list. We need to contact them. We need to email them, send them a text message, let them know that this is happening, and find out if there's something else we can do. Now, instead of spending a week going through all of our old paper files or different folders on a computer, it's just a matter of filtering and saying, hey, show me all TPS cases from El Salvador.
Interesting. I can imagine. Yeah, that has come in handy recently.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, TPS for pretty much every country is ending. Anyone who's had an immigration court case. This is one thing we're dealing with right now, actually. About 8 years ago, we had what was called prosecutorial discretion, where if we could show up at immigration court and say, look, judge, yeah, they didn't enter with a visa, but look, they've got kids, they got a life, they got work, no criminal record. If ICE agrees, we can just close the case and call it good. And that's what happened for hundreds of thousands of cases throughout the United States, probably in the millions, but it's at least hundreds of thousands. Well, again, political seasons change. We have a new president, and they make a very broad statement saying we want to deport as many people as possible, not looking anymore as to whether they need to be or not, but just let's do it. And so now what the court is doing, not the court, it's usually ICE, the attorneys for ICE, the OPLA, Office of the Principal Legal Advisor, are sending out notices saying, hey, we're going to put all these on the calendar again. So once again, we can go back to the case management board and say, hey, show me all the immigration court cases that were administratively closed. And now we've got a comprehensive list and we know who to reach out to ahead of time.
Interesting. Super interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of your ideal law firm customer? And I assume that's changed, over time and evolved. But, obviously we've been talking a lot about immigration, but you alluded to, maybe some other practice areas, size. What other attributes are, signs that they're a great fit for Prima?
Yeah, we have customers across the spectrum. So originally we were most attractive to a small, solo or mid-sized firm. 1 or 2 attorneys, maybe a couple of paralegals that just needed help doing that autofilling of the forms. However, since we've built out all the other features like task management, billing, phone calls, text messaging, all these other things, we've expanded into other areas as well. So we actually have a full collection of the library of forms for the California Judicial Council. So there's literally thousands of court forms that need to be auto-filled by attorneys that we can handle now inside of Prima, and other states as well, including my home state of Michigan. And we just did some work for a client, bringing in some forms from Louisiana as well. So the architecture that we have allows us to bring in other libraries of forms as well. In past generations, there was a product called Hot Docs that a lot of attorneys would use for something like that. It sat on your computer itself. This, of course, is all cloud-based. But a typical law firm is going to be now, it could be a small firm, or it could be a solo practitioner who just wants to increase the speed at which they can produce their product. It might be a mid-sized firm that employs maybe one or two people on site and probably a number of virtual assistants. One of the reasons cloud software has been super popular, at least in the legal area, is because we have a number of paralegals who work for us overseas. So as long as I can make sure they've got a secure internet connection and a computer, they can log into the software and they can process everything.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. Perfect. Well, this section is sort of designed to be more rapid fire. We sort of require a yes or no answer, but you can interject some qualification, to it as well. It's not a hard and fast rule. But this
try.
To go through some kind of key features and give folks an idea of, where would this software fit in my kind of technology stack as a law firm? So,
sure.
Perfect. So, does Prima handle case management and matter tracking?
Yes, especially with the case management board.
How about document management and storage?
Yes, we have file storage. It's hosted with the highest security that you can get in AWS servers.
And how about time tracking and billing?
That as well. Yeah, we actually have a number of billing features, including electronic payments, as you're well aware.
Yep.
So we do include that. So you can create invoices, track time, track expenses, add those to invoices. There's a couple of unique features we have with that as well. So I can say back in 2009, when we were choosing case management software, this is of course before Prima existed, everything out there would let you make an invoice and it will let you bill for it. They didn't all have trust accounting built in, and none of them had a native system for generating payment plans. And in the practice of immigration law, one of the first questions that a client will give is, hey, can I do this on a payment plan? Because we're usually looking at a large lump sum, and many people, they want to pay on, a monthly basis or something like that. And they may not have the resources to, get a loan from friends or something for that. So what we built was sort of a payment plan wizard where you say, this is the amount, this is how much down, this is when they start, they got to pay every so often, to generate a promissory note and a table showing when the payments are due, and then independent payment plan invoices to be able to track that and then apply those either to a trust account or to your operating account when those funds come in.
Awesome. Yeah. Super powerful. Yeah. We see those automated payment plans being really, really powerful for immigration. Do you see most folks on a sort of a time-based payment plan? You mentioned monthly, or more of a criteria-based payment plan, like the case hits, a milestone or something like that, and then the next payment is due.
Yeah, both are possible. In our firm, we sort of do a mix of both. We'll say, and it depends on the client, right? If it's a client who we've helped with other things before and they've got a good record of payments with us, yeah, we'll just put it on a time-based thing because we can trust them. Now, someone who's more of a risk, someone who comes in and complains about their last attorney, oh, they didn't do anything for me. Oh, well, I don't know if you can do this either. Okay, I'm not going to give you the same sort of terms. I'm going to say you can go on a payment plan, maybe, but you have to pay everything before we submit your application. So if we may get to a point where we get the work done and we're just waiting on you to finish paying, but that's going to be the terms that we have to run by because of the credit risk.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I'm actually, I'd love to do a full financially legal episode on how law firms underwrite clients effectively. So we'll have to put that one on the calendar for later.
Yeah, and I mean, some firms don't. Some firms have taken the position that, no, I'm not a bank. I don't want to deal with tracking all this stuff. And that was sort of one of the issues we had at the beginning is we would put someone on a payment plan, but we didn't have an automated system for tracking who was on time, who was behind. And so we might be ready to submit the application and we realize they only ever made that first payment, which is a problem because you got to buy groceries.
Yeah. Yeah. No, super interesting. And I've now derailed us from the rapid fire. But,
sorry. We go back to it.
Yeah. Getting back on track. My apologies. Does Prima offer calendar and scheduling management?
Yes. Yep. Integrated calendar works great.
How about, and you alluded to this earlier, but how about reporting capabilities?
So with the case management board, it's fully filterable, and you can do that with context. You can do it with cases, tasks. So you can generate, efficiency reports or to-do lists very easily.
Perfect. Well, that wraps up the rapid fire section to give folks an idea of kind of where Prima can fit in for them. Let's go back to kind of security and compliance. You talked a little bit about this with respect to the document management, but maybe you could speak a little bit more to the head of IT or chief security officer, who's really wants to kind of dig in here.
Yeah. So security, of course, is one of the biggest issues that law firms face. We know that recently, when a law firm gets hacked or compromised or all their files get encrypted, it's minimum like 70,000 these days to get that undone. I'm not aware of any backdoors or any way the FBI can even help if you report it to them and can get a response from them in time. So unfortunately, if your firm gets compromised due to a breach of security, you're looking at a really amazingly large expense. Now, most of the firms where that happens, where they're most vulnerable, is not firms who are cloud-based, right? If you've got cloud-based software, you can rely on the cloud-based software and the cloud-based architecture for that security. And it's not going to be a matter of, one of your staff or yourself plugging in a USB drive that you shouldn't have, or accessing a file that you shouldn't have, or clicking on an email that you shouldn't have. Typically, that's not the way law firms are being vulnerable. These are the firms that have all their files hosted on site or just on their computer, and then they get one of those blue or red screens of death saying, "Hey, you've been hacked. You contact us here, pay us this much in Bitcoin, and then we'll give you an unencryption key." Cloud-based software has a couple advantages due to that, right? There's, of course, all of the built-in web security tools that exist now, things such as Cloudflare, it's essentially a web firewall that helps prevent unauthorized access to resources. And again, all of this stuff that hosting services like Amazon Web Services or Azure have built in and now are requiring, so when you're using an application such as Prima, when you're using Prima, you're benefiting from, security certificates, 256-bit encryption, things like a Cloudflare firewall that protect you as well. And then there's also the basics, right? You will just, as long as you're enforcing things like multi-factor authentication, which we have, strong passwords, and good internet hygiene, right? There's still, you could be subject to a phishing attack via email. You don't want to be sending passwords via email. And other things, just like using a password manager for storing all your passwords. Those are going to be the things that keep you safe. I can say that now, as we've built out additional integrations with Google, right? We have a Google Calendar integration. We have a Gmail, so an email integration with Google. They are actually requiring like a full security audit before they allow that app to be published as well. And so we've been able to go through those and pass those and make sure that all those things get in place and your data is secured.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's pretty scary to think of all the things that AWS and the kind of premium cloud providers provide, and the thought of having to do that on your own is
well, yeah. And so when somebody goes out and says, I'm gonna build my own app now, you got to be aware of all of that stuff. Yeah. Because it's not like it was 20 years ago where you could, you have an IP address and nobody attacks it. No, now it's like every address is under pretty much constant attack, using an AI model to run the attack, find every vulnerability and every weakness. So,
Yeah.
but follow your dreams. If that's your dream, do that. Follow your dream.
Perfect. I have had the pleasure of working with some of the awesome members of your team, especially over the last couple months. Tell us a little bit about the support that someone gets when they come on board with Prima, both kind of at the beginning, the onboarding phase, and then on an ongoing basis.
Yeah. So when somebody signs up for Prima, we offer essentially what is unlimited training. We want them to be 100% knowledgeable and comfortable with the process. So that's one thing we offer. And like with any software, we were like a few features, right? Autofilling forms. Now it's so much more that we can't say training isn't necessary anymore, right? It's a friendly interface. It's very intuitive, but it's just a couple of clicks and you can be like, oh, yeah, that's great. Now that I know, I know. So we offer essentially unlimited training. We've got a very thorough support site. And we'll get chat messages throughout the day, right? You can put a question right into the chat bot. An AI will try to answer it. A human will answer it if the AI can't. So we have that automatic rollover to a human being who knows what you're going through. So just pretty much unlimited support when it comes to that, because it's important. And we know that if you know how to use package assembly, it's going to save you 3 hours. If you know how to use the case management board, it's going to save all sorts of time.
Yeah. Awesome. Talk a little bit about pricing.
Pricing, yeah. So what we have, because we can do immigration and other fields, we have a core pricing model. So to get the core features for immigration, you're looking at $50 a month. To get the additional immigration library, the total then goes to $70 a month. So if you want California forms, there's an amount to add on the California forms. So the way the licensing works is flexible. You can say, well, this person's only doing billing. They never need the immigration forms. They're going to pay for the core features. This paralegal who uses immigration stuff all day long, they're going to have the more advanced package.
Yep. Perfect. You mentioned the word AI related to support. Can you talk a little bit about sort of AI in Prima today and kind of what's your vision for that in the future?
Right. So artificial intelligence, let's go back to ChatGPT 3.5, right? One of the first popular versions of ChatGPT that was out there. Famous for getting lawyers in big trouble, because some lawyers started taking it and saying, hey, draft me a brief about this and this and this. And then it would hallucinate and make up cases that didn't exist. And there's still, there's a website that tracks this. And I think there's something like 230, it's not punishment cases. What's it called when an attorney gets in trouble? They've been
disciplinary
sanctions. Yes, disciplinary or sanctions due to misuse of AI, right? So that's all typically with earlier versions of AI. What we've done is we have gone through all the major models that are out there. And let's keep in mind that to train one of these AI, these general large language models, it's in the millions and millions, multi-millions of dollars to train them and to keep them updated, to keep them connected to active sources. So we made a decision early on that we can use AI that we host ourselves for very limited things, document-related, translation-related stuff that takes less horsepower. But for things like what we've added recently, full-on case review, right? I've now gone through the package assembly process, right? I've autofilled my forms. I put it together in a package with all the supporting documentation and cover letter. Now I want to review it before the attorney has to review it, right? So that's what we've built out now. And what we've found is that some of these large language models, like Gemini 2.5 Pro, the latest version, does a really great job because it has such a large context window. So what we've been able to do is we've been able to take that as a base and say, all right, we're going to use that as the base model. We're going to tweak it with some instructions this way and with some resources over here. And now it knows that it's okay for it to review a complete immigration petition and point out any potential errors, either regarding admissibility or eligibility, errors even regarding who the checks are made out to and what the filing fees are. These things are very powerful. And I'll say Gemini is like light years beyond the other models right now as far as that goes.
Yeah.
I don't know about coding, but as far as reviewing immigration applications, it's fantastic. So it's a great base model that we're using. So we built that in. We have a new AI case review tool, which again, we've seen. Well, so we have our own law firm. We have Prima, which is the case management software company. And then my wife actually runs a paralegal outsourcing company where she trains immigration paralegals and leases them out to immigration law firms in the US.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And so what we've seen there is there's many firms, even some of the big ones, where they may have a list 50 cases long and the attorney is behind because it's a long process to go through page by page, find all the errors, send it back for corrections, and then get that to final approval. So this AI tool is actually to go through and give a first pass so that when the attorney's reviewing it, they already know that things like the expiration date of the forms, the spelling of names does match the birth certificate. Things like that are already being reviewed, have been checked and corrected, and then submitted to the attorney at that point. And then they can actually see the report that the AI did and then the corrections that were made as well. So it's another way, again, of saving multiple hours per case just with a case review.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's really cool to see kind of AI working at the sort of the case level as opposed to the document level. So that seems like it would be incredibly powerful. Very cool.
Yeah, and I'm proud to say, as far as I know, we're the only ones doing it right now. So once again, it's one of these new features that I'm sure will get copied at some point, but it's tricky.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing some demos of that, and we'll definitely check it out. Maybe we'll, if you have any video demos or anything, we'll link to that in the show notes there. All right. Kind of wrapping things up. If maybe you can take a lot of what you've discussed today on the episode and really pretend you're talking to kind of your ideal Prima customer. Can you give the Prima sales pitch?
I can, but first, let me do this because I know, Emery, your company obviously Confido processes electronic payments, right? And we know that because I met you and we decided that this was a company we want to do business with, right? And there were a number of reasons for that, but it comes down to, for us, I'll tell you right now, I don't know if I've told you this yet, but it was a question of, first of all, integrity, honesty, and just being straightforward and easy to do business with. So highly recommended from the Prima team on that.
Appreciate that.
And so just the fact that we can process electronic payments reliably and at reliable rates for our customers is a huge plus. Right. So I can tell you, having worked with not only our own firm and firms that are using Prima, but all of the firms that Angela works for providing paralegals to, we know of a firm where they had a paralegal, and this is a common story. This is not like, oh, it's the only time it's happened in history. This is very common when you start to talk to attorneys, that they have a paralegal who's working for them or somebody in the office, and then money starts to go missing, right? And it's usually in a high cash flow business like in immigration law, where a lot of clients want to instinctively just pay cash, right? They'll go to the bank to get it out, but they'll pay it in cash when they don't have to. Well, cash is a huge risk because of that, right? And so one particular firm we know of, they had, there was a client's check that hadn't cleared, and so the client called, and then the firm looked into it, and turns out it was that check hadn't cleared. About $36,000 in cash had gone missing.
Wow.
So they did an investigation, right? And they went through all of their records, and it was very clear what had happened after the paper trail. After the police got involved, which they did, because this person lost their job, the police were called. There was, it was confessed to pretty much right away. All this money ended up going to a casino. Someone and their boyfriend liked to go to the casino, and were just literally throwing the money away on casinos, cocaine, and who knows what else. So that's a huge risk for firms, first of all. And then especially in days like today, where there's a lot of firms who are saying, you know what, I survived COVID. I did video calls with my clients. Anything I can do to have a more virtual presence and rely less on in-person stuff like handing over cash is a huge benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that we really liked about Confido is the ability for us on our end to enable surcharging, right? So surcharging lets the attorney pass along the already low rate that Confido offers for doing the transactions, but it allows the law firm to pass that on to the customer as well, subject to your local jurisdiction's rules and requirements, right?
Yep.
But that part's automated, so it doesn't hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just being able to get rid of having to use cash. I mean, we are attorneys, but we're not Saul Goodman, and we shouldn't be carrying, huge cash deposits, dropping them at the bank all the time.
Yeah.
It's hugely inefficient. And we even have here's another great story, right? Well, in that other story, when you consider the consequences, right? All that cash goes missing. It actually had overdrawn that firm's IOLTA account, the interest-only lawyer's trust account. And when that happens, the bank automatically, by law, has to notify the Attorney Grievance Commission of your state. And then the Attorney Grievance Commission reaches out to the lawyer saying, you are in big trouble, dude, and you got to let us know what's going on right away. And so then you got to stop everything at the practice, which means you can't take new appointments. You have to really get into the financials, get an honest answer to the Grievance Commission right away. And then even if you can say, yeah, well, it was all because they were stealing my money, the commission's going to say, yeah, but you're the attorney.
Yeah.
Were you not looking at all the deposit receipts? Were you not checking all of this? You need remedial training. If you complete it, maybe we don't have to do anything else to you, like take away your license or suspend you for a while. So it's just a huge liability. And I know some people they're like, oh, but I love the cash. Stop it. You don't need it. If it goes to your bank account, it's fine. It's going to be there when you need it. And it doesn't disappear in transit.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Those are some wild stories.
I've got one more. So she was actually one of our first clients for Prima, but our very first client for the virtual assistant company. And she had recently reopened her firm. She had to close it for a while because of some health issues. But she was telling us that she doesn't accept cash at all. If somebody comes in and wants to pay cash, she would send them, down to the convenience store, buy a gift card, put the cash on there, and then bring me that. And the reason for that is somebody paid with a counterfeit $100 bill. And the thing about counterfeit currency is the Secret Service gets involved. The U.S. Department of Treasury gets involved right away. If it gets deposited in a bank, you have to deal with, like the FDIC, the FBI can get involved. Everyone gets involved because they want to know how that counterfeit currency got into circulation. And that can put your firm at a standstill for a long time. You could be looking at things like not being able to bank for a while, having to go through just a criminal investigation where they're trying to figure out which one of your clients, if it was hopefully one of them, who did this. And then you have, of course, ethical quandaries because, well, yeah, they paid me with a fake $100 bill. I guess I'm allowed to defend myself, but now I'm telling on one of my clients.
Yeah, but you have to defend yourself.
Right. So you do, right? And that's, it's permitted under the rules. You're not allowed to help a fraud continue or things like that. And then so people say, well, I'll just take a photocopy of all the cash so I know which serial numbers. Well, Emery, have you ever tried to photocopy cash?
I actually haven't.
So there was a time where I said, well, maybe we just photocopy it and then we know exactly what cash came in with what person. There's technology built into the firmware of modern copy machines that recognize US and European currency, and it will refuse to print. So you used to be able to do that, right? And I remember looking at old files from other attorneys where they photocopied the $100 bills just in case something had a problem or somebody thought they underpaid or overpaid or something. But you can't even do that now, and it's not good to try. I don't know if it automatically notifies the Secret Service, but it at least will refuse to copy it.
I did not know that. That's super interesting. Certainly another plug for digital payments and money transfer.
Yeah, that's why for everyone who uses Prima, one of the first things we do is we get them connected to a few different services, right? And one of them is the Confido payments, because we know that using that, I mean, again, that's going to save time on preparing deposits, save time on a lot of the accounting stuff, the tax forms they need at the end of the year. All that becomes automated for them or their accountant.
Yeah, awesome. Well, James, as we kind of wrap things up, anything more that you'd like to say about kind of Prima, either sort of the vision for the future, Prima today, anything else along those lines?
Yeah, technology is moving fast. And I think what we've seen with, the advent of these new large language models like Gemini or ChatGPT is they have pretty amazing capabilities now. I mean, there's a lot of things that we're looking at right now, and we've, built our architecture on the back end to be able to scale and to handle these things. But right now we're doing case review with AI, right? In a couple of months, we're going to have more AI features released. Things like analyzing every document that comes in, automatically creating a plan of action and assigning those tasks to the right people on your team. These are all things that are going to be a reality in a very short time. Even as far as, and we've played with this technology a little bit, answering the phones, right? So somebody calls the firm, hey, and maybe they speak one of 20 different languages. Doesn't matter. These AI models can handle and converse with them in whatever language they need. But then looking at scheduling and finding the next appointment and doing all these manual tasks that used to be the responsibility of a receptionist or a secretary. So we're looking at all of these different automations and possibilities. And when we start to think about the capabilities of large language models, even as they are now, once we can gather all the data from a law firm's account, for example, we can start to do things like, hey, go through all the cases, find the cases that are outside of the normal processing times, and give me a list of tasks that need to be done in order to do that. Or automatically send a text message to these clients if they haven't brought in all their documents yet. Or automatically call them on the phone. And of course, you need consent from your clients to be able to do that. But imagine being able to have 35% of the work that your paralegals are doing on a daily basis, just reminding people to bring their documents and resolving those issues. That's all going to be automated in a very short order here. So we're excited to see all of the new capabilities that are being released for some of these large language models, and then being able to implement those natively into Prima.
Yeah, very exciting. Very exciting. Well, I'm certainly we're very proud to play a small role in all of this with you, and really excited to see what's next. Congrats on everything you built, James. And if for folks who want to check out Prima, is it what website? Anywhere else?
www.Prim.Law. And for those immigration professionals out there, we do offer a 15-day free trial. And again, unlimited onboarding and training at no additional cost.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, James. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for joining us today. We drop these episodes every couple of weeks. You can get the most up-to-date info on Financially Legal by following Confido Legal on LinkedIn. We'll let you know when new episodes are coming out with special edits and content not found on the main episodes. If you prefer email, you can subscribe at confidolegal.com/financiallylegal. See you next time.